This is a live oak tree, and not many know that it's the live oak tree, also known as the angel oak. Lives to be 900 to 1,000 years old, maybe even longer, but no one really knows for sure. The grain that runs in its branches is so intertwined it's difficult to work with, but the branches extend out probably 100 feet, which the tree can be 80 feet tall at maturity, which would be up to 1,000 years old, and the branches extending outward could weigh tons, but yet they don't break because this grain is so intertwined. And this was one of this country's greatest resources. That when this country was founded, these live oaks that um, were found mainly only here were used for shipbuilding. And in our first frigates that were built in the United States Navy after the founding of this country, there were this live oak. This oak was used in the ships. And as a matter of fact, the USS Constitution recently, 1990 or so, had been refitted with some live oak because some of it went bad. But anyway, this tree and this oak in those ships can last over 300 years. Now this tree, not many know that this tree here is probably 275 to 300 years old, which means this tree itself was here at the founding of this country, America. And in actuality, this area right here, there were some great heroes of the Revolutionary War which fought and died for the freedom of our country near this tree as it was very young. So this tree has been alive and prospering since the founding of our country. And our country's in great peril today. Many benefit from its resources and don't realize that it's in great peril. But there are forces that are working against this country, and there's political forces from within that are fighting and opposing and resisting, and either side's called politics, towards betterment, they believe, but as they both fight, they're working towards the country's detriment. Now that's called politics. And each side is seeking to have control and to extend power and control over the others, that they would, basically follow the laws, rules, and regulations that are dictated by one side or the other. Well, at this founding, it was important to have balance. That both would be involved, but that there would be balance. Not necessarily compromise, but balance. Now, in order to maintain that balance at all costs, because one side, if they truly achieve victory, then it would be monarchical. It would be majority rule. And they would oppress the others. So to achieve that balance, there is a way. It would be the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, and it would be called the Fourth Branch. Many people think the Fourth Branch is a bureaucracy now. Well, from its original founding, the Fourth Branch of the three branches, executive, legislative, and judicial, the Fourth Branch was never clearly spoken about, except for it was an assumed the Fourth Branch is the people. And the way the people would be the Fourth Branch would be by voting in the beginning to start the process of laws, but also at the end of a law, once it was broken, they would serve as jury duty. And as a duty to serve the country without influence, without being paid, would set a righteousness of balance and purity of those affected by the laws. That doesn't exist anymore. Juries exist. That purity exists, but they've been nullified. Their ability to say guilty or innocent, yes, that still exists, but they were also to determine whether the law was fair and just within their community. Well, the judicial branch saw that as undermining and usurping their authority, which they were never supposed to do. But they did, and they nullified it. So each state nullifies the jury before it begins and tells them to only determine the facts based upon the judicial branches as they see fit. So I want to read a parable to you, because what the 28th Amendment to the Constitution would do by instilling the fourth branch would insert the people directly into and during the legislative process, similar to jury duty, randomly selected throughout the country, bodies in the Senate of people and bodies in Congress, a group of people, just like jury duty. The numbers to be determined, but that's fine. So they would serve in the Senate, and everything would stay as it is, except there would be a body in the Senate of randomly selected people throughout the country to amplify and clarify the laws as they're being debated to their satisfaction, and they would get a vote too, that body, thereby creating a balance. And also in Congress, a body that would also amplify and clarify the laws as they're debated. All committee hearings and everything, they would participate. Now, I wanted to read you a parable because to recognize that the country, the way it progresses now, would resist and defeat one side. If they win, would be majority rule. The only way the people can have this 28th Amendment is to take back what's been taken from them, and that's their voice and their will, and directly insert it during the legislative process. I want you to know your current president knows about this and ignores it. Some congressmen know about this, and they ignored it. I'm the originator, and they've been informed. But those in power do not want you to have this, because it would restore balance and remove power from them. So in order for the 28th Amendment, the fourth branch, the people, to take back their country, they would have to do it. You would have to tell them you want them. So here's a parable about this tree. So hopefully you can recognize the importance of the 20th Amendment, the fourth branch. The fourth branch. This one's intentions were to outlast all others. And it wouldn't be long before this one stood out amongst the rest, establishing its primacy beside the waters of a swamp. Its roots would require a deep extension to quench its thirst from only the purest of waters. Spreading far and wide, enabled the roots to flourish from the richest of nutrients. The oak's base, once well established, would provide the balance to support its beautiful crown. Each leaf of the tree's crown producing sufficient energy, keeping the oak's pulse steady. Held together and supported by branches, the crown and its leaves became a protective canopy. A great collective resource providing shade as cooling, granting a reprieve from the blazing sun. This togetherness proved useful to help steady its pulse on long, hot summer days. And thus came forth a great oasis for all forms of life, a safe abode, even a home thriving well over 240 years. Then came the changes from which there would be no turning back. necessity required something to be done. There were claims of unforeseeable and unpredictable, masking truths of negligence, incompetence, complacencies, ignorance, and declarations of, for the better good or the current need, always outweighed future ramifications. Then came the storms and heavy rains, washing away much of which supported the oak's base. Without accountability, blame mattered not, because what is natural naturally occurred. Today, there would be no way to undo the damage done. There would be no going back. The oak's roots were now exposed, revealing the tree's pulsing veins to all the elements. Without protection, the oak's roots became vulnerable to erosion, corrosion, rot, and decay. Still, this one's constitution remained strong. This live oak's foundation was firm and remained solid because it was based upon a rock. This day leaves the oak precariously balanced. Yet a few strong, persistent roots still fight to steady its prose. If it were not for the rock upon which it grew, surely it would have faltered. With the weight of its top too much to bear, toppling would be guaranteed. Yet set upon the rock beside the swamp, the embattled oak still thrives. Its leaves still many, its long branches still live. With all that supported its balance almost gone, what could save this magnificent oak tree? The live oak's balance would have to be restored, but it would be up to the people to replace this balance. The oak's base now gone, and no way permitted for the people to backfill or refill the void. The firm and solid foundation upon which the tree still rests. The rock would now be altered once more, not with something new, but simply replacing what had been lost. But it would be up to the people, if only the people would serve. What seemed impossible was quite probable and would be a reality. The people would fill the void by doing their duty, because only the people could do what needed to be done. The people would become the live oak's fourth branch, restoring balance once and for all.